Want to take a quick minute and thank all of the producers of the show. That's right, we've got producers, folks like you and I, who just love these conversations and want to help keep them going. This is a free program. It's going to continue to be free because we've got people called the producers who kick in a little dough each month. $1, $2, $5. We just had a Patreon. Mr. Mark Cook give $10 a month, which is so rad. That's like Netflix level. Can't believe it. Anyway, if you enjoy this program and want to just say a little thank you, kick in a little bit of dough, we sure do appreciate it. Our goal is to initially get 1,000, say it with me, 1,000 people. 1,000 people giving just $1 a month. That doesn't seem like much. It's $12 a year. That's like 2 Subway sandwiches, or 1 if you add avocado, get chips and a drink. But it makes a huge difference for us, and really helps offset the cost of the equipment and putting these out online and the website and all the nonsense we got to do just to get these to you guys. So thanks so much. If you want to be a producer, go to abouttobreakpodcast.com. That's abouttobreakpodcast.com. Click on the Become a Producer button, and you too can be a producer of the show.
I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the About to Break podcast. Katie's making fun of how I say podcast.
Podcast.
Is that how I say it all the time?
Say it.
Podcast.
That was fine.
Okay. Well, either way, welcome to the podcast, everybody. We just got back. Katie and I spent a few days in San Francisco. It was awesome. And our girls were camping with their Grammy and Papa up in Pismo Beach. So Katie and I flew in to Southern California and then drove, 4 hours, babe? 4 hours to Pismo Beach to pick up the girls and basically ate lunch and then drove back home. And now tomorrow I'm getting on a plane to Texas and then Denver. So it's exciting times in the Hughes household. Right, babe?
Yes.
You didn't know we're doing this together now.
Right.
Katie's texting someone about a washing machine. A dryer. Anyway, hey, we're doing a podcast. Let's talk about that. This is episode 38, and this week I am joined by Mr. Matt McCarthy, hilarious comedian. If you are a fan of Conan O'Brien's show, you saw Matt McCarthy this week doing a hilarious sketch with Game of Thrones. Matt's a hilarious actor, comedian, stand-up. And I was so honored to sit down with him in his home and to pet his dog and play fetch. His dog is way better at fetch than our dog, Kate. Yeah, our dog does cuddling. That's our dog's trick, is cuddling.
Right.
Yeah, but Matt's dog does much more tricks. Anyway, dogs are great. All dogs are great. This is the weirdest intro I've ever done. I'm going to keep it, though. We're doing this. We are just a few days away, actually about 10 days away from our next Jokers and Aces show, September 10th at the Nerd Melt Theater, Meltdown Comics in Los Angeles. And Eddie Firth and myself will be back with a great run of comedians and magicians performing together on the same stage, like a mighty Voltron of hilarity and mystery. What do you think about that, Kate? She's mesmerized, folks. So come out and check it out. That's going to be awesome. Big thank you to everyone who's been listening to the podcast. Been getting a couple emails and Facebook messages from folks who are listening and enjoying. And so appreciate hearing from you guys what you like about it and how it's encouraging you. These are really therapy for me. In fact, this episode is just that. I sat down with Matt and was so encouraged by this guy, man. Such a hilarious dude and such a warm-hearted fella. And I know you're going to absolutely love it. Yeah, that's it. I think that's it. I think we did it, babe. I think that's the intro. I think that's it. It's done. Sit back, relax, folks, and enjoy the incredible Mr. Matt McCarthy. I am here with comedian, actor, podcaster, ambassador of wrestling, Matt McCarthy.
Well, hello there.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me in your home. We are in your home.
In my house. Welcome. You are welcome.
And I was
in my house. Beware of the dog.
I walked in and I immediately knew you had the most killer guard dog.
It's so funny because I told you to come in and then I was like, oh man, I didn't even ask this guy if he liked dogs or was allergic or anything.
I love dogs.
then sure
If
enough.
it was cats, it'd be a different story. I'm very allergic to cats. But
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay. I'll take a Claritin if I need it.
The damn dander.
Right? You guys have had her for 7 years, you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got her when she was a couple weeks old. So since
It's
she
pretty
was
rad, man.
itty bitty.
Anytime you open the door and the dog comes with a tennis ball and just drops it, you're like, welcome home.
Here we are. Yeah, she's a Scottish Terrier, Gilda Rad Dog.
That's awesome.
Gilda Rad Dog McCarthy.
Oh, freaking awesome.
And
McCarthy.
she's a Scottish Terrier, and that breed, I remember when I was reading up on, even long after we had her, reading up on the breed and the personality and stuff.
Yeah.
And it said, and it's so true, that they'll be so excited to see you, they sometimes won't even come up and say hello. They'll just start playing with their toys. They're like immediately, like,
They're just
let's
so
play.
pumped.
Yeah.
We just got a puppy. Well, she's a year old now, but she's some sort of terrier mixed with Chihuahua.
Oh wow!
So she's a very funny. She looks like a mogwai about to turn into a gremlin, like ears sticking straight out. But she's a really, really fun dog, and I was told like the terrier is just like a rad dog. It's gonna
very affectionate. What's your dog's name?
Lacey.
Lacey.
Lacey is the dog.
Lacey Pupperson.
Lacey Pupperson. My daughters, I have a 9-year-old and a 11-year-old. My oldest daughter is going to be 12
Wow.
in like 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And they tried to make her middle name Wave.
Wave?
Lacey Wave Hughes.
Who's they?
My daughters.
Oh.
Oh, my daughters to the dog. I would not...
I got you.
No one tried to force me to name my dog. We had her here.
That's what I was worried about. My brother's, he's got 2 kids, Grace and James, and Grace's middle name is, because they're 10 and 8.
Okay.
And Grace is the older one, and her middle name is Cassidy.
Yeah.
Which the justification was Jen, my sister-in-law, had an aunt or a grandma or somebody named Cassidy.
Okay.
But it's because of the Grateful Dead song.
Yeah.
And then
I love it. That can't just be enough. It can't just be because we love this song and this band. It's got to be.
and it's all because of my parents. It's just
The
because they're,
justification's necessary.
they're just they have to have a say in everything, whether it's solicited or not. So then my brother was talking about naming James like James Marshall McCarthy.
Yeah.
Because of Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember my brother telling me that our dad called him up and was like, when they were still pregnant with the boy. And then my dad was like, now, you're going to give this kid a regular name and not Jerry Garcia, Pothead, Dead Show, McCarthy.
Are your parents like super conservative? Have they always been?
They're not super conservative, but I mean, I never noticed it until recently.
Okay.
How they are very controlling.
So it can be any spectrum of idea as long as it's their idea.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're going to give you, because my therapist said to me recently, she was like, unsolicited advice is criticism. I was like, oh. Because it's like, my whole life I thought that, because I'm the youngest and I was like I felt like I was babied and, my parents didn't trust me or thought I was a fuck up or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh no, they're just controlling. It's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy when you're in therapy and like something sounds so obvious to your therapist that you didn't notice your entire life.
Well, you don't even have to be a therapist. You can be talking to anybody because you're not in it. You're like, you need to break up with him.
Oh, yeah,
that
totally.
type of thing.
Totally.
Because like my son's name is Jack, and that's his full name. It's Jack.
Yeah.
And then my parents were like, well, you should name him John and call him Jack. I'm like, well, how about we name him Jack and call him Jack?
I've never understood that idea. My wife's name is, her given name is Kathleen, but everyone calls her Katie. And the justification was, well, we wanted to call her Kate, so we named her Kathleen, and they've never called her Kate or Kathleen.
My cousin's name is Kathleen, and we just call her Kathleen. I think she has some friends who call her Kat.
Okay. Some of her hippie friends.
And my sister's name is Colleen, and growing up, she was Colleeny Weenie.
Kalini Weenie?
Colleeny Weenie.
Did you give her that name, or?
No, I'm like 10 years younger than my brother and sister.
Okay.
So, but I mean, I was around.
Yeah.
But, you know, not when they were small.
Yeah, okay.
I wouldn't.
What was that like, man, growing up with siblings that were that much older than you?
It was kind of like being an only child at times. So my sister went away to college when I was 6, you know?
Wow, yeah.
So that's crazy.
That's how my wife's siblings are. They're like 4 years older and then 4 years after that. So she was like, it's like my sister was in high school and I was still playing with, you know, toys and stuff. And
I mean, I'm the closest to my brother, and then because when I was small, at least, you know, we had like comic books in common, and then when he came back from college and was living at home for a minute, you know, I would have been in high school maybe already.
Okay.
And then we had music in common, you know.
Cool.
And we've always had, you know, I'm definitely the closest with him.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do you play music or just a huge fan?
No, just on the radio.
Do you remember the first concert you went to?
Sure. I have the ticket stub.
Do you really? What was it?
I can get it. It's in the other room. Yeah, I literally have the ticket stub.
I love that you have it like in a holster ready to bring out.
Well, I shouldn't leave the room because then you would just be talking to them alone.
I know, right?
I
could also edit this part.
Oh, that's
out.
true.
Yeah,
all right, wait. I'll go grab it.
Oh, yes, dude.
I'll grab it.
Okay.
Pretend like I'm not.
Yes.
Not in the room.
So, I love that your house is baby proof. That just.
Oh yeah.
I miss it a little bit. Our kids are a little bit older now. I forgot.
I got to do some more baby proofing because he gets
things-
into everything.
How many things could kill you when I was a child?
I know. Well, what's so crazy is my wife is with my son in at her mom's place right now, and she found a picture of her uncle holding her when she's, you know, probably smaller than my son, maybe.
Yeah.
Not 2 yet, but like he's just got like a little box of like Legos, and they're playing with it together. I'm like, you can't give a kid that age Legos.
No. That's like number 2 on the list. It's like peanuts. I think honey.
Here it is.
Oh, dude,
Well, the first thing I ever went to...
You've got all the stubs.
I've got a bunch of the stubs, yeah.
That's
I knew right where they were.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, it just dawned on me. I was looking for my fish ticket stubs,
Yeah.
but I realized, just now I realized, I put them with the CDs of the show.
You have the CDs from that, like the live show?
A couple of the shows I've been to, they even issued on CD themselves.
Oh, that's cool.
And then the other ones, my brother is big into tape trading and then CD trading. So he's got me a bunch of those. The first thing I went to was the Boston Music Awards at the Wang Center for the Arts, April 5th, 1994.
Yeah.
I won those tickets on 94 HJY.
Okay.
The Southern New England's home of rock and roll.
Isn't it funny, like, we remember all the voice drops from our local radio stations?
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what.
Recreated.
I was just the caller number whatever, or I called in and said something. I don't remember.
I called so many times to get, I grew up here in LA, so it was K-Rock, and it was always like, I remember one time, because it was 106.7 was the station, so it was always caller 106, and one time I was caller 104.
Oof.
And I lost my mind. So who played on that show, man? So this was like an awards show?
The Boston Music Awards that year, I remember the Mighty Mighty Bosstones were there.
Yes!
And Letters to Cleo also. And if anybody performed, they might have just... I actually should look this up, because those are the only 2 bands I remembered. But then only a mere 5 days later...
Yeah.
And I wasn't even supposed to go to the show. My brother's either date or buddy bailed.
Yeah.
And so him and I went to see Pearl Jam, April 10th, 1994, at the old Boston Garden.
94, so this is like right when 10 came out.
Yeah.
Oh
and
my
this is a rare Pearl Jam ticket stub on the Ticketmaster stub.
Dude, that's freaking rad.
Yep.
When I was a kid, my sister, her boyfriend was in like a Pearl Jam cover band. They weren't technically like a Pearl Jam cover band.
Really?
But it's like they didn't have any of their own tunes and they just loved Pearl Jam. And one day I played guitar and his bass player couldn't do this gig, and it was like 3 days till the gig. And he's like, and I had never really listened to Pearl Jam, and he's like, we're doing these songs, and here's the list of them. If you can learn them, you can come play bass with us.
So how much time did you have to learn
I had 3 days to learn them, and I was a kid. But dude, for like 3 days straight, that's all I did was, and I just was like, this band is the best band in the world.
That's amazing.
I still think either once or like Even Flow. If I was gonna get in a fight, I want that song playing.
Really?
You know, wouldn't that be great? Like,
yeah.
Like if you're at a big battle and then, you know, I've never been in a real fight.
No, it's not worth it. What else do I have? Oh, that same year, December. This I asked for my birthday.
Okay.
December 3rd, 1994, also at the Boston Garden. 9 Inch Nails.
Dude.
That I remember vividly.
94. How old would you have been? I mean, 94.
14, and then by December, because my birthday's in November, I would have been 15.
I'm just picturing your parents who were concerned about a hippie.
My brother was there.
Letting you go to 9 Inch Nails.
Oh, they didn't know what the fuck 9 Inch Nails was. Oh, God, if they had ever seen...
Can you imagine?
Oh, my God. There's no way. Because the opening acts were this guy that nobody had ever heard of called Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the house lights were on. Nobody gave a shit. And me and my brother were laughing.
He was still doing his thing? Like, he was full-on Marilyn Manson?
He wasn't... I mean, he was, you know...
Yeah.
The 1994 Marilyn Manson.
No pyro or like...
No pyro. He had a couple big gimmicks on the stage, and at one point he goes, the Boston police said I can't be a fucking rock star tonight. Do you want me to be a fucking rock star tonight? And me and my brother were like, woo, yeah, be a fucking rock star tonight, woo! And then he takes off his pants, and he's wearing like this skin-tight rubber underwear with like a big dong hanging off of it. And we couldn't stop laughing. I mean, most of the garden was laughing at him. And he's like jumping around and making it shake, and he's like wrapping the mic cord around it and moving it and stuff. I mean, we came apart. And then, yeah. But yeah, we were just like, this guy thinks he's Alice Cooper. We were like, what is this shit?
Oh my goodness.
And then the next act before 9 Inch Nails was the Jim Rose Circus.
Oh, Jim Rose Circus.
If I live to be 100, I will never forget the Jim Rose Circus.
What is the Jim Rose Circus?
It's a traveling freak show. So
with a band or no? Like
no.
Okay.
So it was, you know, like Jim Rose is the MC, and he would have like this girl throw like darts at his back. And
what?
Like this guy with nipple rings, like they put like a chain connecting the rings, and he would pick up stuff. Like he picked up a suitcase, he picked up a cinder block.
And you're 14 going, I will be in show business.
Right. I'm like, I could do better than that.
Right.
And then who else was on it? Oh, Fuckface. His whole body, including his head, his whole bald head, his face, was tattooed like a jigsaw puzzle. I think he actually might have been on an episode of The X-Files.
Really?
Yeah.
In the tattoos.
Yeah. They're not going anywhere. And then, like, he comes out, like, walking like...
What was his act?
His act was he comes out... I think he might have even been on a leash, and it's like, he lets him off the leash, and he's, like, acting like Toad from the X-Men, and then he sits down at a piano and then just starts singing Misty in, like, the most... Beautiful voice. He's like, look at me.
Yes.
It's pretty fucking amazing. And then 9 Inch Nails came out. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I remember afterwards there was a report on MTV News that weekend.
Yeah.
With Kurt Loder about... Because it was an unbelievable show.
Yeah.
And then at one point Trent Reznor starts... like agitating the crowd and being like complaining that there's no mosh pit, and then all of a sudden like you could see kids down on the floor like start like ripping the chairs up
What?
And like passing them back, and then a pit started, and then Reznor even jumped into the pit and stuff. I mean, it was.
He wasn't complaining that no one was participating. There was literally no space for it.
Yeah.
So they just ripped the chairs out?
They fucking yanked up the chairs. Yeah. Yeah.
And you were hooked, man. Because, I mean, this is within like 6 months. You hadn't been to any shows, and you've gone to 3 now, and you're like, this is what I'm going to do.
Well, it's funny, because I basically don't totally love going to see live music. It's exhausting. If you have to stand the whole time, it's kind of like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't want to participate, but you feel bad.
It's loud. People are drunk.
Yeah.
It can be a little much, parking, fucking, But I'm talking like, this isn't just 37-year-old Matt talking. This is how I felt when I was, 19. I'm like, oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Because at least like Fish, it could be like at an outdoor thing and you could be sitting the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the first time I saw Fish, it was at the Worcester Centrum. And the seats we were sitting at were just right on the edge of the section we were in. So everybody was standing, but you could sit down and still see everything. So I just sat there the whole time.
Just chill.
And oh, man, it was
this
fucking
is great.
Yeah. And again, I was like 18 and just like, I'm just going to sit. Oh, God, it was great. That was a great show.
Where did you see him at?
I was at the Worcester Centrum. That was the first time I saw them. I probably saw them maybe 5 times, maybe 6 times. Oh, 6 times.
Yeah.
Saw them at the Worcester Centrum in 98. I saw them in the Meadowlands. Was it the Meadowlands or was it Nassau? I think it was actually Nassau. In whatever year it was, but B.B. King came out and played with them.
With Fish?
Yeah. He was sitting the whole time. B.B. King got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like every time I saw Fish, something amazing would happen.
Well, they're like that's their thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
It's like a lot of it's improvised. Like even from night to night, you don't know.
No.
Which is great because as a fan,
Yeah.
you're like, I gotta be there because they're gonna do something I'm never gonna see again.
So then the last tour they did before they went on hiatus would have been 04, 03 or 04.
Okay.
Anyway, in Brooklyn, on Coney Island at the Cyclone Stadium. That was the first show, the last tour.
Yeah.
Quote unquote last tour. And then I saw them in Saratoga Springs again on that tour. And then that was like the piano player Page, his dad came out and sang a song with them. And then they got back together in 09, and I've seen them twice at the Fabulous Forum down in Inglewood since then.
That's right.
I'm going to try to go see Trey. He's coming to Los Angeles on Halloween. That should be a good show. Yeah.
Where's that show going to be at?
I don't know. The something with a W.
The Wiltern, maybe?
The Wiltern. That's it. That's
there
it.
Is. I saw David Copperfield there.
What?
When I was a kid, man.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Magic Geek since the beginning.
Wow.
When did you move to LA?
I moved to LA. I'm putting my ticket stubs away. I moved to LA the beginning of November 2012.
Okay.
We actually left New York. This is a wild story. We moved from New York the day after Hurricane Sandy hit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so it was like we were packing, my wife and I. Gilda, don't lick. She licks her paws.
Her paw? How come? She
gets stressed out.
Oh, dude.
She's like, nobody's talking to me. Everyone's ignoring me.
She's such a cute dog.
Come here, Gilda. Come lay down.
She's like, I went to the vet today.
I went to the vet. I should be able to do whatever I want.
Yeah. Hi, Gilda.
Like, we were packing while the hurricane's hitting, and we were like, what do we do? Do we go grocery shopping? Because, like, what if we're stuck? Because there's no food in the house because we're moving the next day.
Right.
Like, we're moving on Halloween. Come on up.
And were you guys flying out and then having your stuff sent, or were you driving?
The plan was, we lived in Brooklyn. and we were going to drive a bunch of our stuff. The majority of the stuff was going to be in a moving truck and was going to meet us out here, however many weeks later.
Yeah.
We were going to drive with the dog and a few more odds and ends in a rental car to Long Island, stay with my sister-in-law and her family for a bit, and then take the ferry from Orient Point to Connecticut, and then go up to Rhode Island to see some of my family, and then we might have even gone up to Maine to see her cousins, my wife's cousins, and then we flew from Boston, I guess. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe New York. I don't. No, it must have been Boston. I don't remember. But
you're there. Hurricane Sandy's showing up.
And then, so it's like 2 days of, because we were going to have, we would have a Halloween party every year at our place.
Okay.
And we canceled that. We had the best Halloween party.
Did you do a different theme each year, or what was your...
No, we would just kind of have a costume contest and just have a real good time. Actually, the only time, maybe we did it twice out here. Because once we had the kid, we were like, all right,
yeah.
The Halloween party's on hold for a minute.
Yeah.
But I think the last time we did the Halloween party out here, that's actually where Georgia Hardstark and Karen Kilgariff met for the first time. And
at your Halloween party.
And now they do My Favorite Murder.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I just discovered that show a couple months ago. I was on the road, and I'm like, I need a new podcast. And I am freaking addicted to it.
They're killing it.
It's insane.
Was it Halloween or was it November 1st? Now I can't remember. But at any rate, we get up in the morning, and we're like double checking if the moving company is even coming.
Yeah.
Because this would have been on a Wednesday, let's say. And they came, and we were like, thank God. And they're like, you guys are the first move we've done all week. Like we had.
They were just glad you're going through with it?
No, they were like, we had to cancel everything. This is the first appointment we've been able to keep.
Wow.
So then I'm like, okay. So I take the train into the city to go rent the car. Most of Manhattan had no power. If Manhattan had no power from like 42nd Street down,
yeah,
this car rental place was on 43rd Street. And so I get in there, and it's madness in there. It's not like it's a ton of people. There was only like 2 other people in there.
Yeah,
but it was madness. Because it was just trying to, and I was like, I didn't even think about that. I was like, holy fuck, like people are going to be trying to get the hell out of the city.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was like...
No one knew what to expect.
Because people were, because the traffic lights were all off, And so then I get in the car, and I go down to Chelsea, where I had I shared an office with a couple other comedians, and I had to get some things out of there. So I'm getting some shit out of there. And then I'm trying to drive back to Brooklyn, and it is like, it was the most terrifying thing.
Yeah.
Driving in Manhattan, most of the streetlights aren't the majority of the streetlights are not working, and there's not cops on every single corner.
Yeah.
So then I'm trying to get up to the Queensboro Bridge, and it's just traffic, like traffic you can't even imagine. Like it felt like a movie like The End of the World or like Godzilla, where everybody's trying to evacuate. Yeah, you're just gridlocked. And I go up, and this one cop is telling people the bridge is closed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking
about?
Yeah,
what does that mean? What am I supposed to do with this?
Like, the bridge is closed.
We're on the bridge.
I hadn't gotten to the bridge yet.
Okay.
But I can see the bridge, and I can see cars on the bridge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah.
So I keep going, like I go a different way, and I get on the bridge, and I'm like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
And I understand what he was trying to do.
Yeah,
but I mean,
trying to like manage the crowd, but
I'm like, this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah.
And so then it was like, we get back to our place. This is actually the last time my wife ever ate McDonald's. Because we went and got McDonald's, and she got so sick, like violently ill. And
of all the times, too.
I know. So then we get out there, and we're like, Jesus, is there even going to be power out? Because like a lot of Long Island was fucked.
Yeah.
Like my buddy Steve lives in East Islip. I'm not sure what town he lived in at the time, but he definitely didn't have power for a while.
Are people still like out on the street, or is everybody like inside, or like?
I mean, people are out, but it's also like people are trying to get provisions, and then like gas stations are running out of gasoline.
Oh,
you know, it's like this type of shit. So then the last thing we have to do is, because Time Warner. They'll come to your place, they'll bring you a modem, they'll bring you a cable box, they'll bring you remotes, they'll bring wires. But as soon as you cancel it, you got to bring that shit back to them.
And go into their little bulletproof
office. And there's only one location where we could bring it. You can't just bring it to any Time Warner. So then we're trying to get to that place, and then the office closes at like 6. And it's like 5:48.
Oh my gosh.
And we're getting there. We're getting so close. We're minutes away from it closing now at this point. And we make one turn and boom, just stalled traffic. And then we're sitting in it like, oh my God. We literally had one block to go. It was around the corner. And at one point I was like, do I just get out and run with the cable box? And then a couple people, like one guy drove around, and I was like, oh, wow, look at this guy. He's just driving.
He's just going.
And all of a sudden I realized, oh, my God, we're not in traffic. We're in a line for a gas station.
No way.
Yeah, like down the fucking street. Like, we couldn't even see the gas station. So then I peel around. I get up there. Like, I literally walked in at like 5:59. No exaggeration.
Yeah.
And then got the cable box back, and then we went out to Long Island. Somehow, by the grace of God, my sister-in-law's house, it was fine.
Yeah.
It was just, they had power, everything was great. Like, my buddy Steve was like one town away. Like, a tree practically fell through the roof of his house. And like he had to walk like 3 miles to go get, water and stuff and whatever. I mean, it was just madness. Madness.
When you're in a situation like that, it's crazy to think that the next time you see that on the news and we're all just like, oh, look, they're having trouble in New York City. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's like real... Yeah. You feel, like you said, it's like the end of the world movie. Like,
what it felt like.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So that was your last hurrah in New York? Well, you're not...
We were like, that's New York telling us to go.
Yeah. Well, wait, did you move to New York for comedy? You were Rhode Island originally, is that right?
Mm-hmm. No, I moved to New York for college.
Okay.
And then I didn't start doing stand-up until 2 years after I graduated.
Really? What was your studies in?
Communications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I just, I knew I wanted to do something in TV and movies, but it was, again, it was, my parents have always supported me in everything that I've done, but, they've, it's just, they're just pragmatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it wasn't discouraging, but for somebody with my temperament and personality, it felt very discouraging.
Yeah.
And then,
they didn't throw fuel on the fire.
It's just, well, it's a very, very hard, it's a hard business to break in. It's just like, now that I'm doing it, I realize it's like any fucking business. You just have to do it. But it's like people have this idea in their head that you can't do what you want to do,
Yeah.
And so, I mean, teachers and guidance counselors and old girlfriends and just those people I felt discouraged me. And it's like, no, you need to go to college. And I had nothing against going to college, but it was like I wanted to go to college and just study filmmaking.
Yeah.
And my parents were like, no, you need to get a rounded
something to fall back on.
And it's just like, I'm not going to fall back on these fucking science classes or math classes or whatever.
Dude.
It's like, this isn't, no, you need to have a well-rounded education because you might find that that's not what you want. And it's like...
Yeah. No one's telling a doctor, oh, you should probably be, practice some CPA work too, just in case.
No shit. It's
right?
why wouldn't you discourage someone from becoming a doctor or a lawyer? It's like, you got to do a lot of reading. It's like, no shit.
Yeah.
Of course, like, I have to work hard if I'm going to succeed at anything.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? I want to be a computer engineer. It's, well, there's a lot of... why don't I just blow my brains out? Yeah. That's the one thing I can think of that doesn't take much effort. Yeah.
It's like telling someone, hey, that thing that you're really passionate about, why don't you just let go of that and do something that's just going to get by?
It's... Because those 2 years after I graduated from college, because I wanted to be a comedian since I was little.
So when you were little?
Yeah.
Because you said you didn't start until after college, but it was always something you were interested in.
My whole life, yeah.
What was the first comedian that you heard that you thought?
I mean, probably Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
That fucking scumbag.
I know.
Steve Martin. Mm-hmm. That fucking scumbag.
Just hear his string on a banjo break right now.
But I mean, even, because of the age difference between my brother and sister, and also my cousins. All my cousins are older. They're all about that, decade older.
Yeah.
And just kind of being the youngest and the third kid, so I was on my own a lot. I spent a lot of time in front of the TV.
Yep.
Which isn't to say that, like, my mother wasn't, like, all right, that's it, the TV's off, you're going outside.
Right.
Right when the thing I actually wanted to watch was about to come on.
Back when we couldn't just watch it later.
Oh, my God. When you missed it, you missed it.
It was it. And then everyone at school was like, did you see this on Full House? No, I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't see it. So
I watched a lot of, Bugs Bunny. Mm-hmm. But even Three's Company reruns. Like, I thought John Ritter was so fucking funny.
Oh, my God, yeah.
So stuff like that. Cheers reruns.
Yep.
And then the thing that I was, like, allowed to stay up past my bedtime of 8 o'clock and watch was, with my mom, like, it was her idea, was the Cosby Show.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And then once I could stay up past 8 on, like, that night, then it became just because I remember my mom was out one night and it was like the series premiere of Alf.
Yes.
Like Monday at 8, and like I asked my dad, "Can I stay up and watch this?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And then I was like, "Well, the precedent has been set."
Yeah, now I'm allowed to do this.
Right.
Alf was a great show, man.
Such a great show.
So good.
But yeah, I was obsessed with TV and comedy.
Yeah.
And even when I hadn't even seen Saturday Night Live yet, it was because like John Belushi died in my lifetime when I was very small.
Yeah.
And he was just like a sanctified in my house or my family or in growing up. Because like I saw the Blues Brothers. It's still my favorite movie. The first time I ever saw it, I must have been like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
And then that's all I ever wanted to watch. I loved the music and the car chases and stuff, and they were so funny. I mean, even like... Because if my bedtime was like 9 o'clock for like the longest time until finally got moved to 10.
Yeah.
And then, so like I would stay up because once I had a TV in my room, no cable, but I had a TV for the Nintendo, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I could get the broadcast channels. Yeah. I would stay up and watch, Cheers and Seinfeld. Yeah. I remember like being like the first, like I'm telling kids at school, like, you gotta watch Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
It's so funny.
Oh yeah.
Always like watching that on my own. And then it was weird when all of a sudden one day it felt like all of America caught up to it, and like Seinfeld was the hot show.
Yeah. And you're like, this is already...
Yeah.
It's been a thing in my life for years.
But like stand-ups, I always loved... I mean, when I was a kid, I loved Gallagher.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I remember my dad would put on Gallagher. We watch his specials.
It was just the funniest thing.
Oh, my gosh. Well, and to see a grown-up being able to be goofy was like a big deal. Like,
yeah. But then once I was like 9 or 10, Comedy Central started. Mm-hmm. It was the Comedy Channel. I remember the day that started.
Wow.
And they basically just showed clips of like movies and stand-up and stuff. And then there were some shows that in and of themselves showed clips as well. And so there was like, you know, the Higgins Boys and Gruber and Short Attention Span Theater and, there was like a guy who's Rich Hall's Onion World. Then there was a guy who's like a PI. His gimmick was like he was a private investigator. He hosted a show. Alan Havey had the late night show. And then they started showing reruns of Kids in the Hall.
Yeah.
And SNLs. And then when the stand-up clip shows.
Yeah.
That was it for me. I used to watch it just all day.
Yeah.
And they would repeat stuff. It would just be the same clips, and I would still just sit there and watch it.
Just sucking it in, just
Yeah.
starting to memorize acts. Doing bits at the dinner table.
So then my two favorites were Rondell Sheridan and Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
And those two could not be more opposite ends of the spectrum. But they just made me laugh the hardest. And then I remember when Bill Hicks died, and they said that he died, and then actually, I feel like they said he died after they showed a documentary about him called "It's Just a Ride."
Okay.
And me and my buddy started we tuned in, we were watching, we're like, oh my god, this is great, this is awesome. And then as the documentary's going on, we're like, why are they showing this? And then we're like, wait, did he die? And then we're like, he must have died. We're like, wait, everybody's like, wait, people are kind of talking about him in the past tense. Did he die? I remember
while you're watching
every so often we would turn to each other and be like, did he die? It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Like now it's like,
you know someone died, and then you see all this stuff
instantly.
About him.
It's like you can't be the first one to tell your friends that so and so died anymore. You know,
right? How weird to think back to when that was.
Like this, I mean, enough time had gone by that like a documentary had been produced.
Yeah.
Like they were interviewing people, and it was like a BBC documentary, and now they're running it on Comedy Central. It's like,
yeah.
And then it was like, after that thing aired, I remember it was like weeks after that, Mark Maron was the host of Stand Up.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was Short Attention Span Theater wound up becoming what Stand Up used to be. I remember Wally Collins hosted it. And then, because Short Attention Span Theater used to be like, you know, it was like a news show, a clip show, interviews.
Yeah.
It was Jon Stewart and, I'm blanking on her name. But they sat at a desk. At any rate. I remember Mark Maron saying, like, we've got a lot of, like, letters from people about, and he's like, yeah, Bill Hicks died on blah, blah, blah.
And you're just like, what?
Yeah, and we're like, fuck. Because in the documentary at one point when they're talking to Letterman about Hicks being pulled from the show, I'll never forget, Letterman says, well, our relationship with Bill Hicks came to a peculiar end, made all the more peculiar by the man's death. And we were like, oh, he fucking died. So then the next time they showed that doc, I taped it.
Yeah.
And I watched that constantly. Mm-hmm. And Paul Provenza used to have a show. What the fuck was that called? It was a talk show, but it was, they just did their acts. But it was
Really?
It was like they were sitting there talking, but he would just, it was...
He would just throw him a line. And
yeah,
then
it's the exact same thing that that Byron Allen show that's on at 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
Comics Unleashed.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, well, you have a boat, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, just that. And I remember Bill Hicks was on that, and I taped that. Because now I was like...
Yeah.
Because then there's nowhere else to go.
Right.
There's also nobody to ask, like...
Right. And did you know even that comedy was a job, or did you, like...
I mean... Yeah, I mean, I knew, like, oh, Bill Murray's rich, and, you know, like Saturday Night Live, that's where all these famous movie stars came from.
See, and I thought when I was a kid, I would see, like, Steve Martin, and I thought, oh, Steve Martin's a movie star, and he's funny when he's on talk shows. Like, I never realized till later that stand-up could be, like, an actual job.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't even realize that they were rich until it was pointed out to me. I remember there was an SNL rerun they were showing where Bill Murray was the host.
Yeah.
And whatever movie he was there to promote, the gimmick they were doing during the monologue, they've done this before, was he was talking and then they would like scroll like subtitles of like their cynical take on what he was saying.
Yep.
And so he said something along the lines of like, you know, I got this new movie, blah, 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 coming out, which is nice, you know, keeps the landlord away from the door. And as he's saying that, I remember thinking, like, yeah, that must be nice. You can, like, pay your bills and shit. And then like, the lower third, like, the subtitle scrolls on. I was like, what the hell's he talking about? This guy's loaded. And I was like, oh, right. Yeah. He's a big movie star.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, as a kid, I totally bought into the aw shucks working class comic thing. Which then it took years to then break out of that, like thinking, oh, everyone on TV is rich.
Yeah.
Which is not the case. There really are working class actors, you know, I'm one now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the challenges, too, in the business is that people see you do a project and they think, oh, he's good. Like,
right.
And they're not thinking about you for work or things because, like, he's set. I saw him on this.
Right, because I remember... I was in a series of commercials that ran for a while, and then, like on Facebook, like people would tag you in things, and like I remember specifically somebody once being like tagging me in this video of me doing an act, and they were like, "Oh, this is Matt McCarthy before his big break," and I'm like, first of all, I don't feel like I've had a big break yet.
Yeah.
I've definitely. This is what I do, and I've done it for over 10 years. Yeah. You know, thank God.
Yeah.
But it's also, like, that clip was from this year.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Oh,
It's like, it's people have such a strange perspective. And, like, people that you never really knew in the first place are like, oh, you're too... I know that you're a big shot now, and it's like... No, I'm not. And if I worked at CVS, I still wouldn't want to fucking talk to you.
Right.
You know?
I think it was one of Bo Burnham's specials. He did a bit on that. How, like, people who never knew you act like they knew you. Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, it's just...
The thing in the business, too, is it's not like you get... I think years ago, people would go on Carson, and it was the idea of, like, Johnny's going to invite you to the thing. And then your life is, you know, set.
Right, and then your career is made.
Yeah, but it's like, there's so much going on now. It's like, you get a break, you make a little bit of money, that's great, but then you got to get another break. You got to do something else,
right.
You know?
Well, my buddy, I just saw my good friend Joe DeRosa the other night do a set at Josh and Josh. And that sounded like such a my good, close personal friend, Joe DeRosa. But he's talking about, on stage, he's talking about, you know, the business and the career and the stuff. And he's like complaining about feeling like he's getting nowhere. And in his when he's brought up to the stage, they say, you know, he just put out a Netflix special called whatever. And he's like, you know, my career's going fucking nowhere. And yes, he just said I have a Netflix special. And really, if you ever want to get 15 more Twitter followers, You know, and I'm like, he nailed it. He nailed
man.
it. You know,
That's what this whole podcast is, man. It's
well, you know
like
what Andy Kaufman
Yeah.
said
What'd he
about
say?
comedy, and I maybe he was talking about all of show business, but it's applicable to so much of life.
Yeah.
Where he said it's like swimming in the dark. You have no idea what kind of progress you're making, and then all of a sudden, you know, you'll hit a wall or something, but it would be a good thing.
Yeah. Jeez, man.
It's like you just got to keep swimming.
I told my wife yesterday, I was like, everyone I talk to that has normal jobs, they're all miserable.
Oh yeah,
And I'm miserable that I'm unhappy
that's-
doing the thing I want to do.
That's
Like-
what I was going to say before. The 2 years between college and actually starting to do stand-up
Yeah.
was the most unhappy I'd ever been. And I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing. I was doing everything that they said I was supposed to do. I was working this desk job, and I hated it. Like, I was so stressed out. Like, my hair was falling out, and I would look down at the keyboard, and there was fucking, you know, hair all over it. Miserable.
You're like 20 years old.
Yeah!
Jeez, man.
I hope this doesn't come across as morbid, because, believe me, it's not. But, because I was in New York City on 9/11, you know, and I graduated spring of 01.
Okay.
And then that whole summer looking for a job. And then by fall, it's like, or by the end of the summer, like all my friends had gotten jobs and stuff. And I'm like the last one. And my parents are paying for my rent. My father's like, well, you know, let's give it till, you know, the end of this month or whatever. And then if you can't find a job, maybe you should move back to Rhode Island and start looking for a job here. I was like, fuck, if I go back to Rhode Island, I'm just going to stay there. And there's nothing wrong with Rhode Island, but it was like,
That's not where you wanted to be.
it's not where I wanted to be. It's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yep.
And then 9/11 happened, and then it was like, okay, we'll give you a few more months because this has fucked up everything. And so it was that allowed me to stay in New York until I finally found a job, like in the middle of December.
Yeah. Wow.
And then I had that job until 10 years ago, as a matter of fact, is when I quit that job.
Yeah.
And then, so I started doing stand-up summer of 03. So then there's basically 4 years of working at comedy after hours. And then I finally gained enough momentum that I was able to quit the day job. And then I've just been doing comedy since.
Yeah.
But like the two things, like I was able to stay in New York and keep finding a job because of 9/11. And then it was such a fixture in my life that it was like I remember once the first anniversary when it was like September 11th, 2002.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe that was a year ago. I can't believe I'm still sitting doing this fucking shitty job. And I'm like, time is precious. Life is precious. I'm like, I need to be doing what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
And so then, really, when the second anniversary came around, September 11th, 2003, I was so unhappy.
And you still had not made a move. You were still...
So then I was like, oh, well, no. Because what it was I'm getting ahead of myself. September 11th, 2002, the first anniversary, I was like, oh, man, like, I need to make a move. I need to do something. And then my birthday of that year, I was like, I wrote a note to I wish I still had it. I wrote a note to myself, like a promise, where before my next birthday, I will start doing stand-up comedy.
Wow.
And then that's what it was, is the second anniversary was like looming.
Yeah,
and I knew by like once the summer was over, it'd be. So then I started doing stand-up that August.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I just last weekend was my 14th anniversary doing stand-up. Yeah.
Where was your first set at?
The New York Comedy Club.
Yeah.
It was a bringer show, and it was just...
Did you know anybody who was
awful.
doing stand-up? Or
No.
you just walked in and said, I want to do this? And
I had done a couple open mics there, and then whoever the booker was like, come this night and, bring this many
so
people.
many people.
Yeah.
Bringers.
And it just went from there.
Yeah.
I have those first. I don't have the DVDs here. I have them in my storage unit.
You got your first sets on tape?
Yeah.
Dude, when was the last time you watched them?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know, about last year.
Yeah.
Maybe the year before on the anniversary.
Yeah. What do you feel like when you watch them? Other than like disappointed in your jokes.
Not disappointed, but just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Just so, like, I mean, it brings me back to that moment.
Yeah.
Suddenly I feel like I'm that comedian again. Mm. Like I'm as good as a guy doing his first show. Mm. I mean, it's I can remember every second of it. And but I'm just so uncomfortable because I can see, I mean, everything that I'm doing wrong. It's funny now. I used to hate watching my sets because all I would see was what I was doing wrong. But I realized, that's what's beneficial about watching this. That is how I'm going to improve.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I didn't realize it until in this moment, like when because I tape every set.
Yeah.
And when I listen back to them now, I don't get I don't get that feeling anymore. I'm just more like, oh, I forgot to talk about this, or oh, I should change this to that. And it's no longer just discomfort.
Yeah.
You know, I can actually get enjoyment from listening to my performances now.
Because
I never thought about that.
Going. That's really cool.
Yeah. Stick with it.
Stick with it.
Stick with it.
Well, Seinfeld said it, man. He's the one who's like, the people who make it are the ones who do it, and they keep going and they don't quit. Mm-hmm. You know, like people look at you when you get an opportunity and they go, "Oh, you're so lucky you got to do this," and it's like, well, you quit the day job,
right?
You know
that's whoever came up with it first. I wish I could give them the credit, but it's like it takes like 10 years to make it overnight.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's ludicrous.
Well, when you were doing your day job and then you were grinding it every night, like you were doing
that was exhausting.
Shows or open mics. I mean,
I remember being so jealous of my coworkers because like 5:30 would hit and they were going home. And I'm like, I would love to. Thank God I lived up in the Bronx.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it was a trip to get back home. So it was like, it wasn't even like I could go home and chill and then come back to the city. It was like, I got to stay where I am.
Wow.
And thank God, because then I would go jump around to open mics or show my faces at shows or try to sit somewhere and scribble down some shit.
Were you ever barking?
Yeah, no, I definitely did that. Like I barked at, it wasn't called the Boston anymore. Whatever, was it still called the Boston? What the fuck did they call it after that? I definitely barked there for like a couple times. I remember the first time I met John F. O'Donnell. He asked me to bark, and I was like, okay. And that was for a show at like the Village
Underground, or
the Village Underground. Yeah. And then I must have barked at the Village Mob. Was that they had in the back was Sal's Comedy Hole.
Okay.
First it was Sal's
What a name.
Yeah. First it was called Sal's Comedy Basement.
Okay.
And it was literally on the same block as the Comedy Cellar.
Okay.
And then they were like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And he's like, what? You're the Comedy Cellar, I'm the Comedy Basement. And it's just in the back of a Vietnamese restaurant, you know? And then they were like, you have to change the name of your room. Yeah. And he said, I'll change it if you give me an audition at the Cellar. And they're like, sure.
What? So he had his own room, but he was trying to get in at the Cellar.
Sure. So then he changed it to Sal's Comedy Hole, which I don't see how that's better.
Yeah, this is not an improvement.
And then he had his audition at the Cellar, and I don't think they passed him.
Do you remember how long it was until you felt like you crossed that threshold of doing bringer shows, and like the first time that you felt like, oh, I'm actually like invited to play?
When I realized that there was more comedy rooms than just the clubs.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know it was called the alt scene.
Yeah. It's like UCB and... Would UCB have been around?
No. UCB was around. UCB had probably. UCB had probably just moved to. God, I can't even think the streets anymore. But underneath the Gelsons.
Yeah.
Which I guess would be called UCB West now. But that was basically it was the only theater.
Yeah.
And that was where UCB was, and still is. Because they were at a coffee house for a while, like a tea room thing. I forget what it was called. I did improv shows there after UCB had left. So by this point, they were already on like 23rd or 24th or 26th Street. It's crazy how that shit vanishes. The amount of times that I've been, like, I could still get there from anywhere in the city. But it's so funny how, like, those specific things I just don't need to know it anymore. So it goes. But so then it was like, it was just bar shows that, like, shows that I didn't even think of it as like, oh, this is a different kind of comedy. This is alternative comedy. It's just, it was just shows comedians were running.
Yeah.
So then it was, and the way that I found out about it was doing open mics and, the shitty club shows and the shitty bringer shows. And just meeting the other comics and having a killer set and then being like, you should come do my show. Or the people are in the crowd like, oh, come do my show. And then, so now I'm doing shows like below 14th Street. Yeah. Yeah. And which is funny because, the Comedy Cellar and all those other places I just mentioned are, down in the Village. But it was like finding places like, Rafifi, and then when Mo Pickens' House of Satisfaction opened up. So there's Rafifi Cinema Classics. That was the fucking place.
That was it.
That was the place. They had... God, I used to be able to run down every fucking show every night of the week.
Wow.
I forget what was on Mondays. Fuck. What the fuck was on Mondays? Was Mondays Oh Hello? Because Nick Kroll and Jesse Klein had a show before it was Kroll and Mulaney had a show together.
Okay.
And then Andre Dubuchet, was that giant Tuesday night of... God, I can't believe I'm so old now.
No.
It's like giant Tuesday night of invention and there's a game. That was really fun. He writes for Conan now.
Yeah.
God, that was a fucking far-out show. Then Wednesday was Invite Them Up. That was the big show.
Invite Them Up? What was the
premise
of it? That
was Eugene Merman and Bobby Tisdale's show. Jeez. And that was... Like, I remember when Aziz was the DJ.
He was the DJ at that show?
He was the DJ at Rafifi, yeah. And then he just started getting up on Invite Them Up, and then it was like... Oh my God, did you see Rolling Stone? Aziz is this year's hot comic. Yeah, it was crazy. These things just started happening.
Yeah.
Jeez, man. Dude, I did New Faces with Amy Schumer in 2007.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Then all of a sudden it's like, holy shit.
Well, it's like
she's the eater of worlds now.
Right? It's like you said, man. It takes 10 years to be an overnight success. Like you.
Oh, maybe Oh Hello was on Thursdays.
Okay.
And then Friday was Greg Johnson's show. I think that's right.
So were you just down there like every night? You just cut out of work and...
No, not every night. Because you know what it was? Is because I was... Because I didn't even... It was so weird. I remember, like, when it dawned on me, I was like, oh... Like, some of these people are like, famous. It's just like, you didn't realize. Didn't have a fucking clue.
There's something beautiful about...
Yeah, like I remember, like,
naive,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I remember, like seeing Todd. I remember being at Gotham. I used to do like bringers and shit at Gotham all the time. And I remember one night, like, not knowing who the hell they were.
Yeah.
Because obviously, they're also not as big as they are now.
Yeah.
Like Jim Gaffigan was on the show. Bill Burr was on the show. I remember like going up to them, and which is a really cool thing to do, being like, wow, man, great set.
Yeah.
But like thinking, it not dawning on me that even by that point, those guys had already been doing it like 10, 15 years or something, you know? Or like, like finding out, like, because I started in 2003, and then for whatever reason for me, it was like finding out that anybody had been doing it since the 90s. I was just like, whoa. Like, I remember, because like meeting like Ted Alexandro.
Yeah.
That guy's the fucking man. And then like really getting like some history lessons on the New York scene from like him or like Judah Friedlander. I remember Judah saying like, being like, oh dude, like, because especially in the 90s, I was unaware of it and I was in it, of like that there was a divide of like, no, this is the club scene, this is the alt scene.
Really?
Like I was just trying to get up on stage, and the clubs were making me pay money to do it.
In the
alt rooms, it was like they were like, "Oh, you're funny, you can go up."
Yeah,
you know. So, but I remember like Judah being like, "Oh, what was the name of the place before Rafifi?" It was it'll come to me maybe, but it was long before my time.
Yeah. But was the divide between the comedians, like the comedians were like, I only do clubs or I only do alt rooms, or?
Yeah, definitely. But then it was like Judah was. I remember him telling me, this is the point of that story. Is he's like, dude, I remember when like some of the rooms were like, oh, your show uses a microphone.
What?
Like using a mic was like hacky. Because I remember like Ted being like,
what?
I remember Ted being like, yeah, me and Judah, we like kind of made a like, because it like this. Comedians think so highly of themselves that you can get in your own way sometimes with your ego, like feeling like, well, I shouldn't have to ask for a spot. They should just book me, and it's like, no, fucking
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with asking for... There's nothing wrong with doing an open mic. If you need to fucking just get up and run some shit, get up and run your shit. Like fucking, you know, get over yourself and never miss an opportunity to shut the fuck up, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember Ted saying that him and Judah made a decision. They were like, if there's a mic, we'll do the show. And then Judah was like, yeah, what, like, because there were even shows that were like, oh, you use a mic, like that. I'm like, fuck, man, that's rough. Like chicks being like, oh, you have a microphone. It's like, okay, that's now you've gone too far. I was like, man, I was unaware of any of this bullshit.
Yeah.
But
how good though, man? Because it would have been so easy to get caught up in it, and then you wouldn't be focused on the work and.
Well, sure.
Doing what you're there to do.
I mean, there is something to be said about, I don't know, I think in my mind the divide is, I don't know what the divide is. I don't even know if there is a divide anymore. I mean, I suppose that there is. There's just, there's no, to me, the divide is the room putting on a comedy show, or is the room selling drinks?
Yeah.
Like, what is the point?
Yeah.
Are we just here because we're all comedy fans, or are we just here because we had nothing else to do on a Friday night?
Yeah.
And somebody calls us on the phone and said, hey, you won 2 free tickets to come spend $50 on drinks and food. You know?
And there's a difference in the audience. You can feel that sometimes.
Absolutely. And there's nothing... Because then you get a lot of club guys who are like, oh, the alt rooms are easy. It's like, oh, it's easy to get laughs. And maybe it is. Yeah. Because people are there to see comedy.
Yeah.
It's definitely easier to get a laugh from somebody who's in a good mood and is excited to watch comedy, as opposed to somebody who's just on a first date and is like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Right.
I'm bored.
Yeah.
And I've had 12 Jaegers.
Yeah.
You know, it's like... There's no need. There's no need inside of me. I've been able to support myself, and then a wife, and then not that I'm supporting my wife, but like being able to support a family and like my son and stuff, doing the kind of comedy that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
For people who appreciate it.
Yeah.
because I've never had fun on the road. I've never had good experiences playing at clubs and stuff. And it's just like, well, you need to learn how to play to those people. I'm like, do I?
Yeah.
So suddenly I feel like I'm back to my parents telling me to get a real job and my teachers telling me to get an internship.
Yes.
It's like, oh, is this what I have to do? Or why don't I just keep enjoying myself, and then I keep putting myself in the right, if I'm in the right place, then, it's like, you got to be in the right place at the right time. It's like, well, if I'm in the right place, the time will come.
Yes.
Because it's just, even doing a late night set. Like when I was really fixated on that for a while. Is this siren good for sound?
I love it. I like to guess what happened.
Something tragic. Probably.
Terrible.
Something, I'm going to guess, bad. What was I saying?
You were saying late nights that you were fixated
Oh,
for a
yeah.
while.
It sucked the fun out of it. And I was like, you know what? I remember the last time I submitted a late night set, and then the feedback I got, I was like, the feedback was like, because I have a joke, and I love doing it, where I'll just come up on stage and be like, hi, I'm Matt McCarthy. Let me tell you about myself. I'm married. Back off, whores.
Yes.
And then whoever I submitted that to, they were like, well, you're going up there and you're calling the audience whores. I'm like, uh-huh.
It's a joke.
No. Imagine
Right?
that. Imagine that.
But it's offensive.
So I was like, that's the joke.
They're
They're like, you can't say that. I'm like, I know. That's why it's funny that I'm saying it. And then I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't have the desire, because then what's the end game?
Yeah,
I don't want to be fucking, in Duluth playing the banana slam,
Dude.
or whatever. It's just, I'm fine doing what I'm doing. Like, I like that I can do comedy the way that I think is funny.
Yeah.
And that thank God I'm blessed to be able to book acting work.
Yeah.
So there's no financial need to go out on the road.
See, that's good, man.
And that's always been the case, And it's just... So then it's like I've never done a late night set on, like, Conan, let's say. But I've lost count of how many sketches I've played on that show.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's like... I'd much rather keep showing up on Conan and doing something different. And there's something, even with like stand-up shows, like if it's a show that has like a game or a parameter, anything with like an assignment, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Like I don't know. I always did very well in math in school.
Yeah.
And I feel like it has something to do with that part of my brain, where it's like, once the teacher explains, this is how you do it,
yeah,
and that's all math is. It's like, here's how you do it,
right,
and now here's a bunch of different scenarios or permutations.
You go and do these, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, and I did derive some sort of joy from that.
Yeah.
So anytime I do a show like Prompter, where they're like, you're doing a TED Talk and the teleprompter breaks and you have to keep talking as though you knew the speech.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, cool, I get it. I can do that, and I kill every time I do it.
Yeah.
Or like set list, where they're like,
dude.
put up the name of the joke, and then you start going into the material.
Well, I saw you at the Back to the Future roast.
Oh, right.
Oh, my gosh.
Exactly.
They freaking killed, bro. Just
Doing like
murdered. Playing Doc Brown.
The character roast or the historical roast. Oh, fictional roast.
Fictional roast, yeah.
Or historical roast.
Oh, dude.
Like the other night, I just did the historical roast of the movie legends, and I was Alfred Hitchcock. And it was like every joke, the punchline was the name of a Hitchcock movie. Like, I love, like, I don't want to do anything formulaic unless that's the joke.
Yeah.
That I'm doing a formula. Like when we did the history roast of George Washington, and I went up as George Washington, and just every joke came back to Martha Washington being a whore. And it's like, it's that fun comedy thing where like the first 5-7 times it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Then like times 8 to
it's
12,
like,
it starts getting less funny.
And then after
all of a sudden,
it's
like,
the funniest thing you've ever.
now like the 25th time, it's like it's uproariously funny.
Dude, it's the rakes on The Simpsons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't know. I try not to analyze it too much, or I just know that I'm enjoying myself, and there's more.
Dude,
there's more to be done.
Yeah.
And it's like there are things that I still want to do in my career, but it's like the world has changed. It's not, you don't have to be on Johnny Carson to make it anymore.
Right.
And you don't even necessarily have to be like clubs are fine, but it's like I find that a lot of the clubs is where you find some of that very confrontational comedy, and it's just kind of, it just drums up a lot of negativity, or like you get a lot of like bros and just alcohol fuel, very aggressive.
Yes.
Whereas it's like the world has gotten so much smaller through the internet.
Yeah.
That it's like you don't have to. It's just insane to me. It's always it's from the first day I started doing comedy, where I was like, I mean, something should be funny, but I couldn't think of anything that's more subjective.
Yeah.
And then this notion that you're supposed to be able to make everyone laugh is like that. Well, that's impossible. No one has the greatest comedians of all time haven't been able to. You could pick any legend. I could find you 15 people who are like, oh, I can't stand him, or like, oh, she's obnoxious, or and it's like, it's like there's no arguing whether or not, you know, so-and-so is funny or so-and-so is funny, but it's like their audiences are remarkably different.
Right.
But this idea that, oh, comedy's all the same and you should be able to... and it's like, ideally, if you could play to every single room, that'd be great. And it's like, and if you're a seasoned comedian, you should be able to go up and get laughs.
Yeah.
But it's not because of anything other than you've been doing it long enough that you can feel out a room and sense what is working, what isn't working, and then have a backlog of like, you know, this dirty shit isn't working.
Right.
Trying more of this observational shit, or like, well, they're really only responding to stories, or like they're. You know,
it doesn't mean that
it needs to be faster or slower or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just there's a million different factors, whereas it's just like...
There is kind of this attitude with comedians, too, sometimes, that if you're not coming up in the clubs, you're not paying your dues or doing it the right way. But maybe your audience isn't in the clubs.
You know, shit. Yeah. Look, there are many, you know, heavyweight, famous comedians that I can think of who I'm like... I wouldn't want to have to do their act.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't want to have... Like, it's just... I mean, what it comes down to is playing the road. Mm-hmm. And, like, playing... I don't know if it's just... If it's because it's other parts of the country, or if it's, you know... Because, like, people get hung up on the... you know, you have to be able to perform outside of, like, that New York City, Los Angeles bubble...
Yeah.
If there is such a thing, or if it's like, oh, you know, you have to be able to play to people that aren't. I think essentially what they're saying is like, well, people who live in the Midwest or the middle of the country or the South or whatever, there's some sort of unspoken implication that, well, they're not too bright, so it has to be less sophisticated or some bullshit like that.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, well, if funny is funny, then funny is funny.
Yeah.
But like I said before, it's subjective, so it's like it's not going to play to everyone.
Right. But it's like you said, it's not that every joke you write is going to play to everyone, but you get the experience to know this is not the room for this, or this is not the audience that's...
Like, I was... I won't say the name of the club.
Yeah.
But I was booked a headline. And I won't even say the name of the town. But I was booked a headline, and, you know, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night too? So, like, one show Wednesday, 2 Thursday, 2 Friday, 2 Saturday, 1 on Sunday. Yeah. Something like that. They hated me. Like
from first show?
First show. Hated me. Jeez. To the point that by Thursday. I headlined Wednesday. I headlined both shows Thursday. By Friday, they were like, okay, you're going to feature, and we're bringing in this other guy who's playing another one of our clubs in a different town, and he's going to come headline. And then the guy who was your feature is going to host. And I'm like, well, am I still getting still getting paid the same money? They're like, yes. I'm like, great. I'm like, what exactly is the problem? And they're like, we have never received more complaints or negative feedback cards in the history of our club.
Holy crap.
Which, as soon as they said that, I was like, then you know what?
Yeah.
I'm doing something right. Because that is... Because fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Because you want to know what type of jokes the guy that they brought in to headline, who was then killing... I'll never forget. I'm standing in the back of the club, and I keep saying to myself, remember this joke. And I keep repeating this joke to myself. And I'll never forget it now, because I love telling this story. Oh, he goes, I got a friend who quit being, I got a friend who quit smoking cigarettes. He used the patch. I got another friend who quit being gay. He used a cork.
And they loved it.
Applause break.
Oh my God.
So I'm standing back there saying, you know what?
You're like, I don't want
to fucking have to play this room. I don't want to have to, sell my soul and cultivate material that will appeal to these people. Because every fucking show I did, and especially the headlining ones where the people fucking turn on me.
Yeah.
Every show that weekend, even when I was the fucking feature.
Yeah.
There would be people, at least 2 or 3, who would come find me. Like, they would come through the kitchen and find me either in the green room or in the parking lot smoking a cigarette or whatever.
Yeah.
And say to me, they'd be, oh, and they'd be like relieved that they found me. They'd be like, dude, that was the funniest shit I've ever fucking seen.
Like
those
people that are there working there. And
No. People in the crowd.
Yeah.
Like the 3 people who got it and were like,
got
dude, fuck these people. These people are fucking idiots, And I'm not bringing it up about like they live in blah blah blah. So it's
just a mindset.
It's a mindset, and you get those people in LA or in fucking New York or in Chicago or Toronto or anywhere where there's like, oh, this is a comedy hotbed, but like, oh, but you're in a bubble. You're playing to comedy fans. It's like, why the fuck can't I play to comedy fans?
Okay, Matt, this is like super encouraging to me because a year ago, I was doing a fundraiser show at a VFW hall because that's where I'm at.
I hear you, dude. I hear you.
And I spent a lot of time on the road doing corporate events. That's how I pay the bills.
Sure.
And I hate it because you start to, after a while, do what you know is going to work, not what you think is funny.
Right. It becomes a device and it becomes a job.
Dude. And it's almost worse than having another job that you just write off as a crappy job. Because you're doing a thing that's this close to the thing you want to do. And a year ago, I'm doing the show. I was in Whittier, California. I'm doing this fundraiser show, and there's 2 of us on the bill. It's me and then Melissa Villasenor.
Mm-hmm. I love her.
Amazing. That night, I killed. And I don't usually say that, but this crowd loved me.
Right.
And it didn't go very well, her set. And here's why. Because she was relevant. Because she was freaking hilarious.
Right.
Because she's doing stuff that matters and is like current. But they don't know who the people she's impersonating are because they don't know anyone who's under 40 years old. Right. And I went to my car and I called my wife and I said, I just killed and I hate that I killed because I don't want these people to like me.
Isn't that funny?
And I need to change what I'm doing because I'm freaking scared to death not to not make a living doing comedy, but to make a living doing the comedy I don't feel is worth it. And 2 weeks later, they announced Melissa's going to be on SNL, and I'm like, there you go.
There you go.
Freaking like...
See, it's I mean, at a certain point, George Carlin said to himself, I can't do this shit anymore.
Yeah.
And he took the suit off,
Yeah.
And people were like, what are you doing? You're crazy. You got to play the Catskills. You got to play the blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And he started dressing the way he dressed in normal life, grew a beard, grew his hair, and started talking to the audience the way he wanted to.
Yeah.
And George Carlin was a successful comedian.
Yeah.
There's clips of him on Johnny Carson and Ed Sullivan, and clean-shaven suit.
And they loved him.
And they loved him, but but what is it about? Is it about selling drinks, or is it about exploring an art form?
Yeah.
If you can make money and explore the art form, that's great. If you can explore the art form and not make money, that's great too.
Yeah.
I don't know. One of my heroes, Jonathan Winters, he said it best. He's like, art has to be for you. If other people enjoy it as well, then that's great.
Yeah.
But that can't be what it's about.
Yeah.
It's hard because it's a business. It's show business, you know? I'm extremely lucky because I get to enjoy acting. I never set out to be an actor. I remember being a kid and being like, wow, like I don't want to be an actor, but like this would be really cool to be like Bill Murray or Dana Carvey. Like how do you I remember being a kid not understanding anything and thinking to myself, how do you let them know you want to just be funny in the movie?
Yeah.
Like I didn't know anything about improv theaters or any of that shit. Sketch teams, and it's just I don't know. Nobody knows anything. Nobody knows anything.
It's true.
That's what William Goldman says in his book about Hollywood. He's like, nobody knows anything.
Yeah.
Everything is just a guess of like, well, this worked, so this will work.
Yeah.
You know, like, well, people liked this show, so we should make this show.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden something brand new happens, and then they're like, oh, that's the thing we're going to do now.
Yep.
It's just, it's I don't know. I've found if it's not genuine, it's not going to be funny, you know? If you're not having fun, they're not going to have fun. Because like the day job I had was like essentially it was just data entry. And it's like, I don't want to get to the point where I'm on stage just feeling like I'm just plugging in the fucking numbers. And just trying to burn through. Because there have been plenty of nights where it was like, you know, it got to the point where it was like, it just felt like I was a tightrope walker, and all I wanted to do was just get to the other side and get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's my challenge. My challenge with the corporate shows is it's like no one came to see a show.
Right.
You're always a surprise. You know what I mean? And it feels like every show's a job audition. Like, I got to get up there and prove that you should care about what I'm saying.
Right.
And then afterward they go, oh, that was great. But it's like, it was grueling the whole time. It's never fun.
Yeah. I mean, there are going to be nights like that. But I mean, it's just, if it's all like that, I don't know if I want to keep doing it.
Yeah. Well,
there's means to an end, and if you just got to make a paycheck, just fucking make the paycheck. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like,
yeah. But that's why, like what you're saying, like doing the stuff you want to do. I was in Vegas last Friday. I was emceeing this corporate sales meeting. Clearly, it was like a multi-level marketing thing. I'm certain of it. But it was like an award ceremony. It was like 600 people, and 500 of them got an award.
right.
And I'm doing this thing, and it's like, okay, I'm sitting there and going, okay, this is going to help pay the bills this month. And all I can think about is coming to Nerd Meld on Sunday and doing a little set. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I can't wait to be there.
No kidding. I'm not doing this because it's not. I'm doing this because it's fun. This is supposed to be fun. I don't know if it's Skank and Pickle or if it's Mike Park solo stuff, but he has a song where one of the lyrics is, I have to keep reminding myself, this is what I want to be doing. And I was like, when I first heard that, it was like a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, dude. Yeah, because it's just, it's easy to become complacent or just, I don't know. I just never want it to turn into a job.
Yeah.
You know? Because I consider myself, for many reasons, from my wife and my kid and my career, and I just consider myself like the luckiest guy alive, you know? I don't know. But I mean, it doesn't have, I don't know. This is just what I've wanted to do since I was little, and I get to do it. And it's easy to forget to be grateful.
Yeah.
And it's easy to lose perspective and not think about all that we've accomplished, and to be able to step back and be like, holy shit. Because I heard somebody say to me once, they were like, in a different context, but it's something I aspire to, where they were like, man, so many of my dreams have come true, I've had to come up with new dreams. And I'm like, this guy has what I want. Because it also is just, your perspective.
Yeah, there's gratitude in that statement. Of
So much gratitude in that.
Recognizing the mile markers,
Because I mean, I've like looking back, like I've been on sitcoms, like I've been on late night shows, like I've written on things. I've written for WWE, like that's a dream come true that I didn't even realize was a dream that I could attain.
Yeah,
and it's just being open to what's going to come next, and it's just. I mean, it's just, I'm a grateful guy, and I'm happier now than I've ever been in my life, It's just, and I'm not going to forget that.
Yeah.
Like I'm leaving tonight to fly to New York for,
huge, man.
for my podcast's 4th anniversary show. We're going to do a live show at Union Hall, a place I used to do stand-up in all the time.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
And sold out show and
sold out. There's going to be like
amazing.
There's going to be like 100 people there.
And they're coming to see your
Right.
live show.
Come to hear us talk about pro wrestling and be silly gooses. And my brother and his college roommate are coming.
Gosh.
It's going to be great. New York.
New York City.
New York City. I don't know. It's just so much of the alt, quote unquote, kids at home. Every time I've said alt comedy, I've used air quotes.
Yes. Comedy.
Is now mainstream.
It's true, yeah.
Oh
yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's even like Andy Kindler, one of my absolute favorite comedians.
Yeah.
They just put up like on Spotify, different places, you can listen to, because he does the State of the Industry address at Montreal Comedy Festival every year, and they just put up the first one he ever did from 1996.
Oh, wow.
It is devastating.
Really?
It is so... He's a fucking machine gun. And his whole... like, so much of his act is... I mean, like, his whole act is very much, like, about himself and his perspective on pop culture. But such a big part of his act that I respond to is just... he turns the microscope onto the comedy industry itself.
Yeah.
And it's brutal.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking funny.
I gotta check it out, dude.
Check it out. I mean, what's his record called? I Wish I Was Bittered. That's so funny too. And his podcast, Thought Spiral, is outstanding as well, with J. Elvis Weinstein. Yeah. But I mean, it's that in and of itself, it's like, is making fun of Ricky Gervais going to play to, quote unquote middle America, and it's like, well, it might now. It's because we're at that. It's what was once meta and postmodern is now mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny because it's like, who did we mention before? Melissa?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, if you're just too... So that's the problem sometimes. If you're a little too ahead of your time, it's like, then it gets to the point where it's like, oh, everybody's... sometimes you just need time for everyone to be in on the joke.
Yeah. Yep, it's true.
I don't know.
It's so good, though.
I don't know anything. I don't know anything.
Yes, dude. I'm sitting here so friggin' encouraged, going like, okay.
I have some... All I have for you is experience, strength, and hope. That is all I can share with you. I don't know anything.
Freaking love it, dude. Oh, God. Matt, thank you for doing this, man.
I had fun.
Dude,
I'm glad we did it.
Let's tell people how they can see what you're doing and
You can go to thisismattmccarthy.com for all your Matt McCarthy needs. I'm still figuring out how to... the show calendar is just not updated, and because it's just I post everything on social media anyway.
Yeah.
But the website is a good hub for you, Matt.
Hub.
But I'm on social media at McCarthy Redhead, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and go to WeWatchWrestlingPodcast.com.
Dude, 4 years.
4 years.
Anniversary shows tomorrow night.
We're taping it tomorrow night. Issue 207?
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
It's rad.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Man, well, if you guys are listening right now, go to the links on the show notes. You can get to all of Matt's stuff. And be sure to go to iTunes, too, and check out his comedy albums. They're freaking hilarious.
Oh, yeah. Go to Spotify and Amazon Music and all that stuff. You can check out Come Clean. And I just put out a comedy single called Pro Wrestling Fan.
This is the best thing ever.
Yeah. It's just a... It's something that it spawned out of the wrestling podcast where I was like, people need to understand what it's like to be a pro wrestling fan, and so it started as this manifesto.
It's fantastic.
And it's even evolved. This is what I love about the form, because it's even evolved from that recording.
Okay, yeah.
You know, because I listen to that recording, and it's like I was talking about earlier. I'm like, it's not necessarily now that I'm like, oh, I hear everything that I'm doing wrong. I'm not doing anything wrong. It's just like it has continued to evolve.
It's a progression, yeah.
It's a progression, you know. Like I did it the other night. One of my boys, he's making a documentary about comedians and who are wrestling fans and comedy and wrestling in general.
Yeah.
And they came to Hot Tub to film the set. And I was like, dude, send me a copy of that set, because it was just
it just clicked.
It clicked, and it's just like it's so, you know, because I was listening to it back, and I was like, man, it's just incredible how, and it'll change.
Yeah, oh yeah,
it'll continue to change. That is why I love, you know, Fish and the Grateful Dead, and it's just like, you know, the way the song sounded in '68 isn't the way it sounded in '72, and it's not the way it sounded in '77 or '83 or '91 or '95. It's just like. And it's all good.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I love about, you know, comedy. That's why I wish there was more, you know, I wish the estate would keep releasing more Bill Hicks material or like Lenny Bruce, just because there's
so much out there. Like, and
it's
even
jazz, you know? It's jazz. That's what I want.
Oh, we have already put that joke out. No, you haven't. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right, because it's different now.
Yeah.
It's just, that's why I enjoy, you know, recording every single set. Maybe someday, like, because I would love to become the Grateful Dead of comedy and just, you know, release everything and be like, this is the body of work. Look at it all.
Love it.
Why not?
Love it.
My man,
Matt McCarthy. Everybody go check it out.
Matty McPatty.
All right, man. I'm going to turn this off. We can keep talking.